This QSL from Tibet was sent by Reg Fox, an English radio amateur who did not return to England from Tibet. Mystery surrounds his disappearance. Interestingly, the QSL carries the Chinese prefix AC, A for Asia, C for China. At the time, the country was enjoying a de facto independence under the Dalai Lama. As early as 1910, a Japanese Governor-General was appointed to be ruler of Korea as a province of the new-style Japanese Empire. This QSL, dated November 1937, carries the J8 Japanese prefix. In 1941, the Korean language was banned by the Japanese forces. This QSL, VU2AU, came from Hindustan, the heartland of India. At the time of this QSO, October 1936, British India. It was sent from the arsenal Kirki by a member of the British forces. India had to wait until 1947 to gain its independence. Before World War II, the country we now know as Malaysia was listed under the heading Federated Malay States with the prefix VS2. This QSL, VS3AC, is rather unique because of its VS3 prefix. It is also of interest because it originated from the state of Johor, from which the Japanese land invasion of Singapore was launched. Japanese forces had entered Malaya just one day after the attack on Pearl Harbor. The sender of the QSL gives his QTH as one of the rubber plantations, which was later to be the goal of the Japanese invasion. Just before the outbreak of the Second World War, there were uprisings in Egypt from pro-independence groups. The QSL is dated 1936 and is from a member of the British forces guarding the Suez Canal. The date of this QSL from Shanghai is October 1938. In the previous year, the Japanese had invaded China. Fighting was still going on at the time of this QSO. The QSL was sent by a member of the British forces stationed in Shanghai. This QSL from Thailand is dated November 1936, when that country was called Siam. Thailand changed its name in 1939, just before invasion by Japan in 1940. Japanese forces invaded Manchuria in 1931, when it consisted of 3 northern provinces of China. A puppet state was set up 1 year later, with the Japanese name of Manchukuo. The date of this rare QSL is just 1 year after this event took place. It's interesting to note that Manchukuo was listed by the ARRL as one of the pre-war DX Century Club countries with the unofficial prefix MX in brackets. This appeared in the pre-war countries listing in QST dated January 1939. After Japan's defeat in 1945, Manchukuo ceased to exist. By the Treaty of Versailles, Gdansk, German Danzig, was made a free city. The Nazis won the elections there in 1933, but Poland refused to cede the territory. This was one of Hitler's excuses for the invasion of Poland in September 1939. This QSL was sent by Max Bradstädtler. On the bottom of the card we can read his address as Adolf Hitler Street, number 484. Herr Bradstädtler must have been a Nazi sympathizer, judging by the Nazi swastikas next to his call sign. This QSL is from northern Rhodesia, which at the time of this QSO, October 1938, was a British protectorate. The country was renamed Zambia in October 1964. It is known by many Australians as the country of the famous Victoria Falls, discovered by Dr. Livingstone. This QSL from Midway Island is one of the collection's rarest cards, and the only one from pre-war Midway. It was sent by Hal Reid of Pan American Airlines, stationed in Honolulu. It is dated 16th of April 1939, not long before the outbreak of World War II. Midway is remembered in history because of the Japanese attack on the island after Japanese aircraft had bombed Pearl Harbor, and for the terrible casualties suffered by American forces when they retook the island later in the war. J9CA, a QSL dated February 1937 from Formosa, now called Taiwan. Although originally belonging to China, it was occupied by Japan at the time of this QSO, hence the Japanese prefix. A very rare QSL from a Met officer on Willis Island, dated 1933, when it carried a Queensland call sign. Willis Island was added to the ARRL's DXCC listing in 1960, with the new prefix VK9. VH3UX, later VK3UX, sent this QSL in October 1928. This was a special experimental station. The VH prefix had been allocated for aircraft identification, but has never been reissued as an amateur radio QSL sign. In addition to the many QSLs received through radio transmission, the collection has a large collection of QSLs from shortwave listeners. Before the war, when rare DX was hard to come by, reports by SWLs were gladly received by most radio amateurs. A rare SWL from Iceland in 1937. Most shortwave listeners had numbers and letters on their cards. Few, like this one, had only their name on the QSL. An SWL from Moscow, sent in 1928 to a British amateur, EG5JO, just at the time when Joseph Stalin was on the way up the political ladder in the USSR. There were many Australian shortwave listeners active before the war. This QSL, dated August 1937, was sent to New South Wales from WA, but was nevertheless no doubt appreciated. Quite a few SWLs embellished their cards with cut-out photographs. It was quite common for early QSLs to bear the owner's initials. This one, sent from Broken Hill, New South Wales, bore the initials of W.A. Rouse. Where are the post-war QSLs? Part 2 of the WIA National QSL presentation contains post-war cards showing other facets of QSL collecting. In this presentation are shown QSLs selected from pictorial, thematic, prefix and special issue card collections. These QSL cards, comprising the WIA collection, have been kindly donated by many hundreds of amateur radio enthusiasts, both in Australia and overseas, in the hope that future generations will know a little more about amateur radio.